I think we can begin. I'm Patrizia Morgante, in charge of communications at UISG. I also want to thank the congregation that organized the seminar about 2 weeks ago, which is the missionaries, the daughters of the Holy Family of Nazareth, and especially the commission of the two unions, UISG and USG, who organized this seminar. Every year they organize a seminar about education, Catholic education. This year, the theme was transformation of schools in order to transform the world. And the title that we've given to this meeting is From Hierarchy to Redarchy. The objective of this meeting is to allow all the people who could not participate to those 3 days, to listen and to take advantage of the results, the fruits, but especially to add on to this major global network about education, which will respond to Pope Francis's invitation about the Global Educational Pact. So I don't want to take up more time. I'd like to welcome our brother Mark Omede, a Marist brother, a member of the Education Commission, a Marianist brother who's going to welcome, Marianist brother.
I want to welcome you to this interactive session, as I may call it, after our last meeting. You remember some days ago, we had an experience of taking part in another heartwarming seminar that drew our attention to continue to build on the way to implement the call of the Pope Francis to embrace the Global Compact on education. If we remember very well, the methodology driven home with the help of Sister Montserrat and Nuria brought us face to face to continue to build on what the Pope has asked us to do, promoting the co-designing in the formation of children and young people for their transformation and the transformation of the society. As educators, and Catholic educators for that matter, equipping ourselves with the modern and acceptable trends keep us ahead in the way we impart and drive the lesson home. The 7 key ideas on which the Global Compact on education is made were brought to the fore, and educators were in various groups invited to reflect through the known best practices of different institutions and then creative ideas on what ought to be new in our different institutions. The key elements that came out strongly at the end of the last seminar is the fact that no one or an individual institute or congregation can do it alone. It requires the collaboration and synergy in networks as Catholic educators to implement the message of the Pope and indeed that of the Mother Church. The seminar, for me personally, did not end as a conclusive seminar, but with an open door that called all participants to continue to use the knowledge gained to build on it further, as the objective clearly said, that it was a moment and a space for reflection that allows discerning need based on attentive listening. This afternoon, we also want to continue with that attentive listening. The seminar was a moment of dialogue that generated the need for systemic transformation, for sustainable innovation and its implementation. And finally, it called us to form or generate a network that promotes the Global Compact in education. I want to thank the WISC and the USG for providing us the opportunity, especially this very one, as a follow-up to what happened during the seminar. I welcome all of you and invite all participants at this panel today to listen to the discussion and to act from our local environment and move eventually to the national level, and then continue the discussion at the Global Catholic Education Body to unite as one and act as a strong force in creating an environment that impacts on the child. Welcome to this panel of today, and I believe that together we can do it. So let's do it.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, I got the congregation wrong. He is a Marist brother. Thank you for underlining the importance of the fact that education is not a personal individual task, nor of a single congregation. It is a common task as female and masculine religious life, but also from many lay people who take up this mission, especially that education is a strength, is a force for transformation, and we will discuss this further with our speakers later. So thank you so much. I'd like to provide some information about the seminar this year. Almost 500 people participated in this seminar from all over the world, representing 86 different congregations from 73 different countries. I think that we are truly building, thanks to COVID, a global educational community, because I think that many here remember that last year, almost 800 people were online talking about the Global Educational Pact with the methodology of appreciative inquiry. So we're truly building a global community for education. Now we get into our dialogue. I think that's what we are all waiting for. And I invite two members of the congregation that organized and dreamt and had been dreaming for 2 years, I think, about this seminar. And they are two sisters from the missionary daughters of the Holy Family of Nazareth, Montserrat del Pozo. She is the General Superior, and Nuria Miro, who right now is at the other end of the world in Australia. Thank you for your participation, Nuria and Montserrat, and welcome. Thank you, Patricia. I think that the first question that you can that can help us get into this theme is why a seminar about this theme? What are the objectives? And do you think that we've really achieved the objectives that you had in mind before beginning? Montserrat, you have the floor. Well, truly, when we were told about this seminar to organize it with this issue of the Global Pact, that we were a little fearful because so many things had been done, so many publications, so many books, so many organizations had done important and significant things that helped congregations so much. So we thought that what could be helpful was the actual experience about what was organized based on the Global Pact, and especially to be capable of reflecting together collectively, which was the best thing, that is on what was best, that is how to achieve these objectives and prove them, but more than achieving them, it was about how to do it. When you read the evaluations from the participants, my impression is that the word inspiration, if we made like a cloud of what they say, the word inspiration, the seminar inspired. It raised the responsibilities as to the networks, that it raised the awareness about some work that needs to be done in schools, that imagining, that dreaming. I think that it was a word from God. It was a blessing to be able to assist in that. So I think that some objectives were met, and we hope that they develop further. I would perhaps add that I think we were all aware of the transformative value of Catholic University in the world, and how all these propositions in the Global Educational Pact can help us today to enable that transformation, to be that yeast in the world. I think that too, this consciousness was awakened, the enthusiasm was reawakened to be those agents of change. Once again, just to say that Catholic education has a word to say in the world, and religious also have words and hope, and this gives strength to the lay world, to the engagement of lay people in this Catholic education. I think it was a moment to resonate, to want to say that Catholic education, yes, yes to the pact, yes to continue with it, thanks to opening horizons, and yes to generating hope. Here we are. Thank you. I think that for you, it was about sharing what you are already experiencing in the world as a congregation, together with other congregations in this context, in the context of education. If I had to extract two words from this first dialogue, I would mention transformation and yeast. I don't know whether participants want to take other words, but language is truly very important. We're going to focus on this topic more. What does it mean? And I'd like Nuria to speak. What does it mean? Uh, what does it mean to go from hierarchy to net hierarchy? Well, net hierarchy, yes, I think that was a very strong concept, especially on the third day, and the evaluations are filled with those ideas about what this net hierarchy is. It's like a new way to organize ourselves, especially we all add up, we all need each other, and the more variety and the more diversity, the more creativity there will be. And what this net hierarchy invites us is that in that space of creation, we can be much more creative, innovative. And in addition, this also includes experimenting. But for this, we need to offer many spaces of trust, of confidence, another type of organization, another type of leadership. But as Montserrat was saying during the seminar, it doesn't mean that all of a sudden the hierarchy that actually, that's where we're based on, because religious life is very hierarchical. What the net adds is another space that is more open, more agile for the future in for the mission, but it doesn't mean that the hierarchy is going to completely disappear, because in many opportunities we need very strategic structures, as we've said for many years. I think it is important to bring out a concept that is collective intelligence. That is, if we believe that we can all participate, that we can all say what we think, what we study, what we investigate, we all have a voice. I think we can start generating those networks, those webs that go beyond what we can imagine. We know that education is a system. It's a system that is alive. It's complex. It's a system that needs the opinion of the others, and it's a system that, in order to stay alive, requires participation. I think that another word would be collective intelligence, believe that everybody has a voice, can participate and are heard. And that there's dialogue. And another word is about the values, sharing the values and doing good deeds, in simple words, to seek to do good. I would add that perhaps WebRTC emerges at a time when there's a lot of uncertainty. What we cannot expect to do is to control that uncertainty. We simply have to trust, offer spaces for trust, and enable people. This is not a blind trust, but we've equipped ourselves and we have enabled people to be that decision capital, to have that capability to see, decide, share the purpose. But those trust spaces for trust are necessary in order to move forward, in order to experience and open that future despite uncertainty and with this uncertainty, playing, being flexible and accommodating ourselves, accepting, willingly accepting uncertainty as something that is positive. If we put WebRTC at the center of the people, not control, and not the organization, but actually if we put people at the center, it is through people that changes can be achieved or needs. I think that WebRTC will help or promote creativity in people, and it'll help us generate some contexts in as based on emotions. That is, when you participate, when you feel that you own something, then the greater good appears, and it flows better with greater prosperity. Right. In addition, control wears you out. I mean, in addition to the cost of controlling everything, it wears us out. We do not enjoy. I think that WebRTC places us in a context when there's more enthusiasm. We start seeing things which could not be dreamt of without this degree of participation. And I think that, and also we're done with I think and you execute. That is, we think and you execute. We, and this generates categories of peons and thinkers. I think it breaks away from this and it leads to a better world where we can all feel we belong. WebRTC has much to do with a fraternal world, which ultimately that's what we want, something that transforms. It is from that fraternal world that is so much in Pope Francis's mind. That is what our world and our church is asking for, right? It's about feeling happy to belong, to happy to face the future. I think that WebRTC gives you much trust as far as how you can face the future. It could be a difficult world, ambiguous. I'm coming from Palm Island, from about this issue with the volcano. You see how people face that attitude, and we say, okay, when the volcano is over, we're going to be doing this or that. I think it's important to trust in the group and believe that we can make it together. This is a synodal issue, working together. This is before our eyes, and Pope Francis repeats this. WebRTC response to synodality. Well, I could listen to you for hours because I feel it like a thread that is intertwining and that is connecting all the documents from Pope Francis, from Fratelli Tutti, the Pact, Laudato Si. But I have a question for both to help us understand what capabilities we need to be leaders in this webarchy, because I'm under the impression that at least in my age, we are part of a different model. So I wonder, what is it that we need to change? What paradigm do we need to change in religious life, in Catholic education, in order for the future to taste like webarchy, Montserrat? Well, if it's a different model for you, I will not mention my age, but it is also a different model for me. I'll say it with a word or a virtue that emerged many times, but I'm increasingly convinced of this need for humility. That is, today we have to be capable of opening up to learning. We live in a moment of learning under all perspectives. Humility is one of those virtues that we do not need to process. You need to work them through action. You have to exercise that humility more than thinking whether you are or not. Once that humility is clear, I think we have to combine teams, look for cohesion. We have to make that cohesion real, not with cement from the outside, but from the heart, from within. This cohesion requires processes of participation, but also processes of sharing life. If you do not share your life, there's just the cement on the outside and nothing within. I would also say that aside from that cohesion, we have to have a clear view. You have to bring the future to the present. That clear or dark view. It's not like the Rembrandt or Caravaggio paintings, the darkness and light, but there's some light that light is what is transmitted, what is conveyed, and you also generate a shared view, not based on what you see, rather the institution, the group, as long that it is collective intelligence. I think that in leadership, we talk about adaptive leadership, but it is based on the people. It comes from the people. I think that what has changed mostly in that leadership that is needed today is people. We have to focus on people, and we have to be humanizing leaders. Perhaps what has changed most is that from the people, from the organizations you lead, it's not just that you are leading people. It is, however, learning from people. That is what makes you capable of leading those changes together with the people, and to face that future, or to bring that future to present. I'm thinking that deep down, perhaps we're called to look at leadership with new eyes, begin each day as if we were to inaugurate that role of leaders. And I'm saying this in the sense of being leaders, that where the spirit truly can open up a space every day, because we need to listen a lot. We need to not take things for granted. Do not expect to have everything under control. I think that this is the letting go, the allowing that spirit to get in, so that others too can have their space. I think that once you experience this, you don't go back, but you have to experience it. Once it is experienced, we experience that what joint participation is, what is gained. And this has nothing to do with time and effectiveness, but it does relate to a more kairos type of time. It's about feeling that there's life within the organization, and that you are walking toward those dreams, which we don't know where they lead us None of us know where we're going to end up. Yes, there's a vision, but it's being modified from all those who are part of our organization, and this is beautiful. And people like to participate and to have an impact, have an effect. Nobody likes to just obey a mandate. I think that recovering that and placing people at the middle, it means to believe that everyone has something to contribute, something to say. And if we form people so that they can develop that autonomy and that creativity, they can contribute a lot. You make me think about the fact that what matters in a leader is to ensure that all his people are leaders. There used to be that concept of the leader as the person, as if she had been born touched by God, as if she were unique. I think that this concept is mistaken, is wrong. Today, we're all leaders. Each of us is a leader if we're capable to give the best of ourselves in our contexts. And if we're capable of generating contexts where other leaders can emerge. More than leaders, I prefer the expression agents of change. To me, leadership is being agents of change in the sense that you are where you are, and that is why it is so strong to be an agent of change. It carries strength because you're doing it with others, and that creates a new sap. It's rich. These are gardens with multiple colors. And of course, grace rests in the fact that we can understand each other, that difference, that the things are beautiful because they're different. And it is in that variety that you will never you will never be angry if only one of them is mentioned. I think that being agents of change is the word that we have to include in this leadership. Yes, a leader that also listens, and in that sense helps us grow and wants others to grow. It provides that opportunity to listen to the other and to establish those agendas for learning for every person. I think that in that sense, listening, allowing to be changed, letting our plans be modified, that doesn't mean that it's chaotic every day, of course, but these are not closed paths. We offer the possibility and sufficient flexibility so that others can make changes, and those others, as believers, we believe that God is going to act in those two. It, it's about not going from into an ecosystem, but ecosystem. That's, I think, when we manage to have those trust ecosystems. I think that this educational model you're presented, of course, it may not be new for many people, but we have to achieve it. We have to implement it because theoretically it's perfect. Then the difficulty is that we have to change to make room for other leaders. But as I listen to you, I'm now seeing the Glasgow scenes during the climate meeting, and the young people, the really young people who truly tell the adults, hey, we need to change and we want to change now, not tomorrow. I think that with these scenes, we can witness that some of them already feel like leaders in this difficult situation that is climate change. They are those who are mostly affected. So this issue about the leaders, about young people, has a strong impact. Okay, many words, many inspiring words again, Montserrat and Nuria. Creativity comes from variety and diversity. That sometimes is a little difficult because monotony guarantees control. And I think that this whole digital world is pushing us, calling us with the lights and the shades to this model that you're sharing with us. Now I'm going to leave you for some time because we're going to listen to two people who have taken part in the seminar. So we're going to listen to the other side. They are, well, a French layperson who will speak French, Aude Boguin. And then Sister, I'm going to try to pronounce this right, Sister Shone Miranda, and she will be speaking English, and they're going to tell us something. My question is to both of you. What struck you more in this seminar? But what is most interesting for us is to hear how you're going to use, how you're going to change or invest what you experience in your reality. Oh, the 5-6 minutes for you in French.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here today. Well, let's see what has really touched me during this meeting. I would say the diversity. When we speak about Catholic education, if it depends from where you come, if you're coming from Lebanon, Africa, France, there is a great variety. And this has also opened up my eyes, thinking about, I don't see that on a daily basis, although I'm aware of them. So it's important to maybe have this exchange of views with counterparts from different countries has really opened up this great wealth and richness. But I would say that also the needs are vary. I would say that the the Odist Fathers, the Congregation of Jesus and Mary, we do work, we do network already in 3 schools, 3 colleges. I know 3 is not much, but 3 is already a start. It's already a good beginning. And so we do have a regular meeting. And for the last 5 years, the congregation also has contacted another congregation with the same, let's say, charism, the Lazarists. And we now have a group of 20 schools. We have annual meetings focused on one common theme, which is decided by the principal of the schools. And first, just to give you an idea, the situation of LGBT or rather transgender teenagers. We do have some teenagers in our schools who are asking to change their sex, and so they ask us which are the legal restrictions, and it's not very easy to cope with this kind of situation, and we were not prepared. So we thought that this was important to be tackled as a central theme. So during the 3 days of the webinar or seminar, I didn't have enough time to digest and to think about that. But I'm a strong advocate of networking, because I think that by networking, we can really achieve a lot. But of course, how can we continue remaining in network after these 3 days? Maybe through little small groups. We were also divided in smaller groups and subgroups, every time with a different setup. I don't really have an answer, but I would say that this day today has allowed me to see some of the people I had met during the seminar. So thank you for having organized it.
Another brief question. Sorry, Miranda, I'll give you the floor in a minute. If we had to summarize in one word the change, the transformation that you experienced during the seminar, what would you say?
Maybe an expression rather than a word. Universal opening, so open to universality.
Miranda, same question for you. What has marked you more, and especially how are you going to use now as sisters what you have learned and in your reality?
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share, and I'm happy for the opportunity that I had to participate in this meeting. What touched me most is just the word building a global community for education. Further explained in the movement from hierarchy to netachy. That touched me most because I just try to reflect back in how the schools function and my experience of how they function. I see much of hierarchy where decisions flow from the top. And this seminar was a kind of enlightenment for me and brought the importance of moving from the bottom, because I realized that moving from the bottom will involve everyone. There will be collaboration. And once people feel that we are working together and their ideas are valued, they will be more committed in what they do and they will participate. And this participation will lead to a great achievement. And therefore, looking at how this knowledge will be used in my congregation, the first thing we will do is to share this knowledge that I got from the seminar with the different sisters that are involved in education. And after sharing the knowledge, I believe that we'll begin to form groups of further discussions on how to implement this movement, where everyone will be able to participate. And we will be able to organize seminars where we will share ideas and learn from each other, and to promote initiative, sharing whatever is happening in our area, so that together we can promote collaboration and greater achievement. And in the process of collaboration, I see we'll be able to give feedback more to ourselves. And feedback will help us to look back at those things that we need to change. Feedback will help us to learn new things. And in the process of collaboration, also we'll build trust with each other. And when this begins from our own institution, we'll be able to involve the other institutions and see them as fellow collaborators instead of engaging in competition of which institution is the best. Thank you. From Cameroon. Yes. I think the first resistance would be I'm looking at head of institutions, like when they are appointed, there is a feeling of maybe I know it all and I should give instructions and others should follow. So there will be a kind of resistance on you are interfering with my duties, or you don't know more than me, and there will be that resistance. That's what I would think. And also knowing that in Cameroon these days, we have, there are some crisis going on, talking about networking and all that. It is also a challenge because traveling from one part of the country to the other, it is not easy. And even being able to connect through the social media, sometimes quite difficult because of network challenges and other issues that could lead maybe the network to be cut off completely from other parts. So that will also be a greater challenge to this.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Sister Miranda. And I think that listening to you was a great and fruitful experience, very generative for everyone, although now the work is beginning. Thank you. Before we go back to Monse and Nuri, I'd like to now give the floor to Monica Osh. She's a sister from the Missionary Daughters of the Holy Family of Nazareth. Monica is going to help us better understand this webpage that was created before this seminar that will follow us a space where we continue finding what we need to reflect on and continue sharing. Thank you, Patricia. I think you see the page. The objective of this page was and still is to accompany a process, accompany a process of their own seminar, this transformation process and the process to create a network. The idea was to help participants prepare for the seminar, and that during this seminar to have a space to share the reflections, but especially the objective makes sense is now, it makes sense now, because the web page may be useful for these participants to the seminar, but also for any person, any congregation, institution, or school, so that they can repeat or redo this process and reflection in their reality, their own context. That is why the web page was in the 5 languages of the seminar. The materials were translated as we used them during the seminar. We have this main part where we have the 3 major themes, time to reflect, time for change, time for global compact. And every day we have the objective, and we also have the summary of the group work, which can help as example when we have this dynamic again. And we also have a map that you can download to do that same work. The first day we have this task to analyze the reality of the schools and institutions in light of the 7 objectives in the pact. So we have the examples that we had already given and the new ideas that the participants developed. And then here we have examples of practices that are links to videos, experiences of the different schools about those transformations achieved in the schools based on that reflection. This is what we have for each day. From a perspective of a change, the second day would be a dynamic to view the change. We also have the template, what was worked in their groups, and examples of those views that were generated in their groups. And the third day, we have what relates to this time for change and the dynamic that was done to work on this theme. This is to be repeated to redo these dynamics. We also have some resources from before the seminar, which we can use to enrich ourselves. We have the official website of the compact, the words of the Pope, a reflection, the previous reflection that was done, the Sustainable Development Goals. And especially, I'd like to point out this section because Mother Montserrat mentioned this during the seminar. And there are 5 brief conferences that explain the 4 transformations in more detail. And this is also in the 5 languages of the seminar. So these are the resources and the links to web pages, all related to the compact and the transformation. And in the post-seminar resources, that's where we find the recordings, the videos of the conferences, which were held at the beginning of each day. We have this is the last day. We have the presentation of Mother Nuria about the time for change and Mother Montserrat's presentation about transformations. These are the 3 days. As far as resources, we also have a video that attempts to show what it is we want to say through these emerging learning. And this was asked for during the seminar because the graphic was shown in Spanish, but it's in other languages. What are the most salient elements, or how that educational model that we were mentioning can be summarized, which was transformed through these 4 transformations for sustainable innovation. So we have the web page to have this reflection again in this whole process of change, and also to generate network. And we would love to add more examples of transformation achieved in many areas. Thank you, Monica. For instance, if people want to share good practices, where can this material be sent? Is there an email on that page? If not, perhaps you can provide it. It's difficult to have it delivered directly, but yes, through an email to be able to share. Thank you, Monica. You've really done incredible work, because the work begins now. It's not just these 3 days, but it's open to everyone, even those who have not participated to the seminar. Alejandra is asking whether you can provide this link to this page, of course, and they will also be in all the videos that we're going to publish on the YouTube channel. I also wish to say that the people are joining this webpage every day. There are about 900 visitors, but we're seeing that every day people are joining to go back to this so the reflection is ongoing. Thank you, Monica, for this work model that you're sharing with us. It's not just about having the seminar, it's also about offering tools to continue this dialogue and reflection, to also share it with congregations and the lay people who work with us. Let us now go back to our sisters because there's a question. I invite participants to ask questions, to place their questions in the chat box. And we're going to recuperate those. I have a lot of questions for Monsignor, but I'd like to go back to one thing that was said by one person. Nora asks, how can we manage a balance between chaos and excess control? I too had this question, and I'll leave it with you so you can think about it, because I want to go back to something that Aude said. How can we continue building this network after these 3 days? That is, okay, what we did is great, and now we're back to today. But since we parted, how are we going to build this network, which is the Pope's invitation? I leave you with these 2 questions, and I'm sure others will come through. Recover balance, not wanting to do so. And in the midst of chaos, to give an image, if we are in high sea, if we've fallen, or if the sea is horrible, the problem is to want for this sea to come down. It's not about recovering our balance. It's about living within the chaos. What can we do so that chaos doesn't make us lose stability? What can we do so that chaos allows us to think? What can we do so that we can get something out of chaos? I understand that this chaos is uncertainty. It's everything that's about to happen, what you cannot control, but deep down, it's a lack of security. It's lack of security that generates that chaos. And that lack of security oftentimes also generates anxiety, because there's strong personal insatisfaction, because you ultimately cannot control, you cannot see where you're headed or if you're doing well or not. So I think it's important. It's not important to recover balance. What matters is serenity in the group or the person in a reflexive practice, or in a classical language, to have that capability to discern, so that within chaos, we can find the means to stabilize ourselves, and that it should not be chaos what leads us to institutional and personal chaos. I understand the question as how we can generate the space of trust and to let go of control, this control of wanting to know everything, executing everything, to be present. I think that we have a lot to let go of, and we have to know that the other could contribute a lot and more than yourself. Now, that's easily said, but we do not entirely believe it. And as leaders, we turn ourselves into something way too important. So we look into all these organizations that grow quickly. Somehow we're also called to set a point, to to have that flexibility, agility, that beauty in the things that emerge because they make you dream. And in that sense, it is possible. If we want to put everything in a plan, we will never have that point of illusion that we're called to in Weberkey. If you're a person who likes to control a lot, if you notice that you're like that, start letting go and see what happens. But let us not leave people alone. We offer those spaces. Perhaps there are protocols to start weaving those conversations and participation. There are networks or dynamics that ensure that that creativity will emerge, and there's that collective participation. At the beginning, it is more difficult to you go more slowly, but when you acquire it, it is already part of culture, and it becomes easy. Yes, but at the beginning, you have to let go a lot because you're very afraid of losing control. We are under the impression that we are losing our pace, but we have to think that we are going forth. We're called to being that church that goes forth. And for this, you have to let go of a lot. We have to forget about ourselves a little also. I would also dare to say something about the strategic plans that provide us with security for 3-5 years. A strategic plan today with a 1 or 2 year vision is enough. I think that if we want to achieve that balance, the process of the strategic plan has to change, and to this process, we have to add other plans that will be helpful. What I mean is that we are in a very dynamic moment with little securities. How can we move forward? Well, we move forward as things are being built. You manufacture your airplane as you fly. We have to manage to achieve balance during the process. We have to see how in this process we can achieve the plan that we are designing. I would dare to say that we're living in a time of doing sketches. I mean, we know how our painting, how we want our painting to be, but we are in the sketching moment. And we also have to enter into this mentality of I don't know what I don't know, and we have to accept that, and others may help us see. As I listen to you, what Miranda was saying earlier resonates very much with me about forming leaders in WebArchy, forming ambassadors for this WebArchy, because I think we have to make a cultural shift that is very important. There's a question here from Sister Kilina. I'm going to translate it into Spanish. And Sister Nuria was saying that there's complementarity between hierarchy and webarchy. I would like to have I'd like to have some practical examples about how we can harmonize and benefit from the two strategic models. Thank you. I was saying something that relates. It is that we have to play on two agendas. One is that strategic agenda that relates to that hierarchy. For example, that relates to the fact that we need a vision. We need to define a vision with our mobiles, with the forces of change that we can guess. There's a point that involves foreseeing, calculating. Of course, we have to organize our schools, and we have to organize teams, and we have to set up meetings. There's something that has to do with these words, with hierarchy. But then at the same time, we have to combine, we have to be capable of giving that other air. We have to go through moments that are more highly planned, and we have to cross those moments with other moments, other dynamics that allow for the unplanned to emerge. And that is certainly what is more beneficial. We need to plan, but then we need to let something different in, something that relates to the difference, the diversity, allowing each one to grow and to be him or herself, allow them to act up to their potential. I don't know if I'm making myself clear, but in our plans, we always have to open the window to those spaces for learning and for trust. I was talking about humility earlier. We always have to be prepared and open to learn. Our pores have to be open to listen, to learn, and to see what we can grasp to continue building something, and that we certainly cannot do alone. That is a part of the other hierarchical sphere, but sometimes they are in conflict, and we can only resolve it by doing it, by experiencing it. And if we make mistakes, we have to redefine. Nothing is written, nothing is set. And it will only be each school, each place, or each institution that can experience it. It's just a matter of practicing, of experimenting, and providing new possibilities. Thank you, Nuria. I don't know whether Montse wants to mention a few examples. All the institutions or congregations have made great efforts to unify provinces, and that unification, well, every institution knows what that cost, what that entailed, so that no province would crush others, maintaining all of them with the same opportunities. I think that WebRT is based on the fact that although there's one delegate and one delegation, there are projects that have a different way to act that does not depend on the provincial. These are projects that are alone in the network. It's not the provincial that says something about this network or the other. It is the actual network that generates the projects, and the network will go ahead. I think there's a lot of material to continue speaking. I only have 2 more questions to go toward the end of this meeting and panel. It is about the role of religious life for Catholic education. This, if you can help us understand, based on your experience with the Global Education Network, can you share how, based on your experience, what is the role of religious life in Catholic education? Well, I'm thankful for this question. it is what I like to respond to. Now, if religious life places the mission at the center, the mission which is evangelizing, when the institutions who are involved in education as part of their charism, it is very helpful to think that we are giving a significant response in today's world. But what is beautiful in this significant reply is that it is not very clear. It is not based on what the founders experienced, rather on that redesigning, reinventing of the founders for today's world. I think that today's world is fascinating. I like the 21st century. And I think it's interesting to think about how we can give responses within the educational field. And the social dimension is what I think is acquiring a new sense, new meaning. I think that religious world was very important when it was about good deeds, discipline, investigations, research, and this is still applies, and we still have to watch out for them. But I think that the dimension of a school that goes forth, dimension of a school with a social projection about going to those cities of learning. I love to think that our school is the best. I like to think that our school is a prototype, but not, instead of this, I'd like to think that about how our school will have repercussions in a city of learning, a new city, a fraternal city, a city where we can share, where we can affect each other, a city that generates a capability to be and to be comfortable. And that's possible. That's possible if we walk together. So I have much hope. I think that it's not about our school, our institution, rather the evangelization in service where we are, at the service of where we are. I think that the Catholic school has done a major effort in this, but the issue is that policies sometimes cancel our design. So we have to be careful in defending our own position. It's not a defense, it's about equality. It's about being able to give the best to everyone, especially the needy and the most vulnerable. In addition, religious life has a great thing, which is that we are present throughout the planet, everywhere in the world. So today in education, that word universality is essential. We already have this as a tradition from the onset by default, and we have to take advantage of that, and that relates to those networks, those worldwide and cross-cultural networks, the networks that go beyond. And ultimately, we understand each other because the gaze of the person has to be the same gaze, the gaze of Jesus, who looks at a person with that love. So I think that religious life and that universality provides great viability to those networks. You were talking about global education. Global education has given us the opportunity to speak with people who hierarchically began, I don't know, to different provinces. We began having dialogues. And if this seminar came up, it's also thanks to the establishment of these bridges, and thanks to the possibility of having different people through different languages facilitating, but there's this transcendence, transversality that allows us to go beyond. So I think that this point about universality should not be forgotten. Any multinational may envy the great opportunities that we have to connect and to reach the most remote places. Right now I'm in Australia. The possibility of going to an Aboriginal community, participating in a Eucharist with people who are so completely different. I mean, what we can experience as a church is so great that we should never lose sight of it. Religious life has a lot to say in a world where fraternity is a priority today. I would also dare to say that the religious world cannot give up, not because we are few, not because of whatever reason. We need the laity, and lay people need us. We have to be capable of that complementarity, especially even if we are older, or we cannot give up. The world needs us, and I think that this is a call that we have to very much keep in mind. Thank you, Monse, for this final comment that brings a lot of fresh air. Sometimes we feel kind of out of it. So thank you both. I have one last question, but I also want to give some space to the questions in the chat. Agatha, who's saying that the initiative of a leader to go from a hierarchy to webarchy, does that have to come from the bottom, or can it also come from the most general level as an institutional leadership? The last comment to Nuria and Montserrat, and then we're going to our closing. Well, from the general level, we can say a word, but nowadays it cannot be the only word. There has to be a space for participation questions so that leaders emerge from where they are. That is the context or the place where they are, and they have to be known and recognized also from the bottom, in that sense that Agatha mentions. I would say that from the hierarchy, contexts need to be generated so that that leadership can happen, and also from the grassroots level. What matters is that we have to feel like leaders from the bottom, and from the hierarchical level, we have to feel like leaders. We have to be humble. We have to be capable of listening, of speaking, and being agents of transformation wherever we are. So both things are important. Leadership has to be generated within the contexts in a culture where all of this can emerge. I think that this tells us that from a religious life level, we have to move forward. There are many things that we have to ask ourselves, and we have to do something different than what we've done so far. It's also a synodal journey. Thank you to all of you. Thank you to the people who have shared with us, Nuria, Montserrat, Aude, and Miranda. I now call you all here, call you to the forefront for a last word. Before I give the floor to Sister Elena from the Education Commission, I would like for you to give us a word of trust, even a challenge, something that encourages us and that tells us that from now on, what can I become involved in? Where can I commit? From your perspective, it doesn't matter if we are more or less leaders. From your perspective, I would like for all of you to invite us to a challenge that is encouraging. So I leave you so that you can decide when you're ready to share. What are we in? What do we encourage people to do? Yes, leave us with a word that says that is a challenge, but something that we can walk forward with. Perhaps they were asking about how can all of this be followed up. I think that if we look at the initiatives on the web page, well, the question you were asking now, well, I think Nuria wanted to answer. It's about falling in love with our mission. If we fall in love, the rest will flow. Thank you. Some encouragement messages are coming through in the chat box. So thank you to all the participants. Aude.
The word I would use, we have to aim at hope. Hope is our destination. I think we just don't have to simply adelante, as the Spanish say, to move on forward.
For me, we have to begin the transformation from our own selves, knowing that we are leaders wherever we are. And in making these efforts, the others can see us as an example and be able to do the same. So let us take the challenge of beginning from our own selves. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you all for participating. Thank you for listening. And now I'd like to give the floor to Sister Elena Rastello, Italian. I wanted to introduce you. She's a Salesian sister. She's a member of the Education Commission. She's a Salesian sister who lives in Rome. You have the floor,
Thank you.
Elena.
Yes, at the end of this time all together and on behalf of the whole Commission for Education of UISG and USG, I'm very happy, first of all, to thank you all. I want to thank our sisters Montserrat and Nuria for their skills in their shared dreams, together with Monica and the whole missionary daughters of the Sacred Family of Nazareth and the whole commission. I would like to also thank the equipe of UISG with Patricia, the technicians, interpreters, and all the people behind the scenes that facilitate our global dialogues. And then I would like also to thank you all participants. We are so many from all over the world, but together we can also thank our youth that are in our heart nowadays. And it is thanks to them that we are together now. It has been a very nice meeting when, again, we newly discovered and deepened the analysis of a choice to communion, a choice that in our educational mission becomes an investment for energy, time, and resources, and also the choice of a process of a new path where the youth, where teenagers, children can more and more express their desire of being involved in our work, of being appreciated and feeling co-protagonists in this hierarchy, protagonists for the life of humanity, but for also our educational mission. We, participants, experimented the co-responsibility of working with the youth, which is a source of hope and joy. When they are with us, rhetoric becomes easier and also more achievable. We also recognize that we need to strengthen these relationships and these experiences of community and of living the Holy Spirit, a spirit that calls us to practice synodality in our process. In other words, that we spoke about a lot and that symbolizes our reality and also our existing way of working in our schools. So rhetoric, as we defined it today, makes some elements emerge for this synodality that we are called to define and to embrace. The transforming power of education allows us to be, and today we can feel it, a global education village, an educating village with a strong heart, an educating village where we can share life and where we try bravely and with a shared vision to put at the center the individual of the youth and the individual, meaning educators, in a humble and sharing-based style for a shared learning. We discovered that rhetoric is a choice of communion, and it is also a strategy for us. Nure and Montserrat defined it a lot of times. This is also a strategy for the life of the humankind, so that everyone can express the richness of the various education charisms, most certainly basing and starting from the poorest and the youngest and the smallest people. This becomes empowerment for us. And so the global seminary that we lived from the October 21st to October 23rd is symbolized in the great sharing work of the commissions of which we are part as congregations, the whole accompaniment that we have been offered, all the materials are silent steps towards a great process aimed at building networks at every level, not only among religious institutions, but also among educational bodies in our territory, in the society, all over the world. We're talking about intercultural networks, interreligious networks, networks that already exist and that actualize the global compact on education. We have been building, according to the dream of Pope Francis, that kind of educational village where we can see collective intelligence as the only mean to think all together about how to face the current challenges as real animators that operate in the change. the current shift in our challenges from the care for the impoverished on our heart and the climate crisis, from the craftsmanship of peace that we have been building through education, to the beauty of brotherhood and sisterhood. These are all fundamental elements, and I think that this hour and a half was a great experience of brotherhood and sisterhood for the humankind of this millennium and for every one of us. Thank you very much, Elena, for having woven the whole heritage of richness that emerged from this meeting, and also reading the beautiful messages here in the chat. I saved the chat because I think it's really precious for us. And someone was saying that we already can experience moments of lethargy of which we are not aware. And so I think that this meeting was really useful for us. Thank you, Elena, for having reminded us the role of the youth as protagonists of our world. It's just enough to watch TV to understand it. So we are coming to the close. I want to thank every participant. I want to thank the missionary daughters of the Sacred Family of Nazareth that participated and organized this meeting. I want to thank also the interpreters that enable us to create community. And these are Ilaria, Marilu, and Silvia. And I would like also to thank Sister Therese and Ricardo, who cannot be seen but are behind the technical scene. And I think also Sister Florence, that are invisible but are behind our meeting. I would like also to open the microphone. Let us stop the recording. Thank you all and have a nice weekend. Thank you.